Okay, let's start. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Tale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna. So thank you all very much for joining today's session. I am sure all of you must have either attended the whole session live yesterday or at least heard the recording of the first session before joining today. Is there anyone who is joining for the session now without having heard yesterday's session, either live or recording? Is there anyone who has joined that way? You can please raise your hands. Okay. Yeah, you may. One devotee has raised her hands. So you may find the session little difficult to cope because, as I mentioned in the group, we have laid the foundation for today's discussion, the other three discussions based on yesterday's session. So yesterday's session is very foundational. So, okay, even in case if you have not attended yesterday's session, at least please do go back to listen that session again, because of course I'm going to do a recap now, but the recap is not a replacement for attending the session. So that session is very critical and non-negotiable session. It has to be attended. So only then the subsequent sessions will make sense. So, so therefore, part 2, part 3, part 4, if you have to understand, part 1 is very essential. But you don't have to necessarily drop out now. I am going to do a recap. But again, as I mentioned, a recap is not a replacement for attending for a recap is not a replacement for hearing it. Okay, you have to certainly hear the session. That is very critical. Anyways, I will do a quick recap of what we have seen till now. The course is titled as "Are You Sure Your Bhakti is Pure? Self-Evaluation Tools for Understanding Our Own Practice of Bhakti." The reason why I designed this course is because this is one area where there is lot of misunderstanding. What exactly are we practicing? Is it pure devotional service? Is it mixed devotional service? How can we practice pure devotional service? Oh, we cannot practice pure devotional service because we don't have qualification. Okay, then are we practicing mixed devotional service? If we are practicing mixed devotional service, then should our practice have elements of karma, jnana, yoga, etc.? What is it? Then if I am practicing mixed devotional service only, then are the books which have been written about pure devotional service, are they relevant for me or not? And if I am practicing mixed devotional service, will my mixed devotional service automatically become pure devotional service? All these questions come up, and in most of the cases, there is no clarity as to, what exactly are we practicing? Are we doing everything right? Are we missing out on certain things? Should we do something else? Should we start apart from the practice of the limbs of Shravanam, Kirtanam, etc.? Should we also include other things like karma, jnana, yoga? So these questions are they keep coming up. So therefore, it is very critical that we understand what exactly are we practicing. Okay, so I will do a quick recap of what we saw last time. I mean, yesterday. So we were going to understand, are we practicing pure devotional service or Uttama Bhakti? So for that, we try to understand that what is Uttama Bhakti from the classic definition of Srila Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Anyabhilashi Shunyam, Jnana Karmadi Anavritam, Anukulyena Krishnanu Sheelanam Bhaktiruttama. Pure devotional service or Uttama Bhakti, Srila Rupa Goswami says, has 4 elements. One is Krishna Anushilanam, Anukulyena, Anyabhilashita Shunyam, and Jnana Karmadi Anavritam. So, Krishna Anushilanam means continuous service or emotions directed towards Krishna, his expansion forms or others related to him. And Anukulyena means with a pleasing attitude towards Krishna. And Anyabhilashita Shunyam means that practice should be devoid of desires other than the desire to please the Lord. And Jnana Karmadi Anavritam means the practice should not be obstructed by karma, jnana, yoga, etc. So, yeah. So these were the things that we saw. So these are the four elements, and we saw that there are 2 primary characteristics and 2 secondary characteristics of Uttama Bhakti. The primary characteristic is that removing which the whole definition falls apart. It is no longer Bhakti only. And if you remove the secondary characteristics, then it ceases to be Uttama Bhakti. So we saw of the 4, which are the primary and which are the secondary characteristics, we try to understand. Anukulyena and Krishna Anushilanam are the primary characteristics, because if one does not have a favorable attitude towards Krishna, and if that favorable attitude does not translate into service to Krishna through either mind, body, or words, it is not bhakti at all. And on top of that, if that Anukulyana Krishnana Shilanam has the elements of Anyabhilashita Shunyam and Jnana Karmadhyanavritam, then it becomes Uttama Bhakti. So, Anyabhilashita Shunyam and Jnana Karmadhyanavritam, which is purity of Prayojan and purity of Abhideya, or purity of goal and purity of practice, is what makes that Bhakti as Uttama Bhakti or pure devotional service. Right? So then we try to understand a little bit more in detail about what is this all these 4 aspects, so that we understand, so that we will be able to gauge whether we are practicing this pure devotional service or not. So Anushilanam, so Shilanam means actions using mind, body, and words, and Anu indicates continuous. So Anushilanam means continuous actions using mind, body, and words. That is Anushilanam. And Krishna Anushilanam means those continuous actions using mind, body, and words are directed towards Krishna. Okay. So that is the meaning of Anukulyan. Sorry, that is the meaning of Krishna Anushilanam. And this Krishna Anushilanam is of 2 types. One is Cheshta Rupa Anushilanam, another is Bhava Rupa Anushilanam. So Cheshta means actions. So Cheshta Rupa Anushilanam indicates continuous actions using mind, body, and words, but without the manifestation of spiritual emotions, which are seen in the perfected devotees of the Lord. So as soon as they chant the holy names, tears start flowing from the eyes, hair starts standing on end. Tadashmasaram hridayam batedam yadgrihyamaner harinamadeyi na vikriyeta yada vikaro netre jalair gatra ruheshu harshah. So that is actually spiritual emotions. As soon as one chants, immediately the ecstatic spiritual emotions are manifest from within the heart. So that is actually Bhavarupa Anushilanam. But when those emotions are absent and only actions are there, actions of using mind, body, and words are there, continuous actions using mind, body, and words, directed towards Krishna, it is called as Cheshta Rupa Anushilanam, right? So, and the word Krishna includes Krishna, persons related to Krishna, either in Cheshta Rupa or Bhava Rupa Anushilanam. And because it involves persons related to Krishna, it is not too narrow. For example, Adav Guru Padashraya, the very first limb of the Bhakti is directly directed to Krishna. It is directed to the Guru who is connected to Krishna, like that. So Krishna includes things, places, personalities connected to Krishna. Things like peacock feather, flute, personalities like Guru, the Vrajavasis, and places like Vrindavan, Mayapur. So worshipping them also constitutes Krishna Anushilanam. So that the word Krishna includes all of that. Then we discussed, oh, is it Narasingha Anushilanam or Ramanushilanam? Bhakti, isn't it? Isn't it not Bhakti? So we understood that the word Krishna includes Krishna and all his expansions. So therefore, Krishnanushilanam includes Ramanushilanam, Narasimhanushilanam, Varahanushilanam, and all those that we saw. So then we tried to understand what is the meaning of Anukulyena. So Anukulyena, Anukulya means favorable. Anukulyena means with favorableness or friendliness or devoid of hostility. So, so therefore, Anukulyena is very important, because one cannot say Anukulyena is not needed, because how can one continuously serve the Lord without any favorable desires? Because but you do have Shishupal, who was continuously engaging his mind, body, and words, or mind or body and or words in directed towards Krishna, but without a favorable attitude. So therefore, you cannot say that it is so you cannot say Anukulyena is redundant, because continuous actions directed towards Krishna using mind, body, and words is not possible without a favorable attitude. No, continuous engagement of mind, body, and words directed towards a person is possible with an unfavorable attitude also, like in the case of Kamsa or Shishupal, like that. So one cannot say that Anukulyena is redundant. No, Anukulyena is not redundant. Anukulyena is definitely needed. Or someone may say, what is the need of Anushilanam? Because if one has Anukul attitude, then automatically they will serve, right? One may say like that. This Anukul attitude, then definitely service will be there. So how can you say that? So how can you? So what is the need of Anushilanam? Okay. So Anushilanam is needed because one of the meanings of the word Anukulyena is devoid of hostility also. So if you see, even a pot or a table or other such inanimate objects, they are also devoid of hostility towards Krishna. So if you define, if you say only Anukulyena, then without Anushilanam, then you will see that even inanimate objects should also be accepted to perform bhakti. But this is not true. So therefore, only animate human beings, or at least animate living entities, can execute actions using body and words favorably towards Krishna. So therefore, Anukulyena Krishnanushilanam. Anukulyena is also not redundant. It is definitely an essential element of the definition. And Krishnanushilanam is also essentially needed. And another reason is that if the word Anushilanam, Krishnanushilanam is not there, then you will not be able to understand these two shades of Anushilanam, which is Cheshta Rupa Anushilanam, which is practiced at the stage of sadhana, and Bhavarupa Anushilanam, which is practiced at the stage of Bhava and Prema, right? So that would not be possible. So therefore, it is needed. Both are essential. Okay. And then we saw two possible definitions of Anukulyena, that which is pleasing to Krishna and that which is done for pleasing Krishna. We understood that that which is done for pleasing Krishna is actually the meaning of Anukulyena, because sometimes pure devotees like Mother Yashoda, like during Damodar Leela, she may try to perform certain activities which may externally be displeasing to Krishna. So if you define Anukulyena to mean that which is pleasing to Krishna, then under some circumstances, Mother Yashoda will not be considered as a devotee. And when Chanura, Mushtika, Kamsa, and others are fighting with Krishna, Krishna is having a really fun time. He's really enjoying it. It's pleasing Krishna. So then, if you define Anukulyena means that which is pleasing to Krishna, then it would include the demons also. So therefore, Anukulyena should be defined as that which is done with a desire to please Krishna, which is only devotees do that. Okay. So then we try to understand the two tatastha lakshanas, the tongue twister, I'm sorry. The two tatastha lakshanas are anyabhilashita shunyam, where one should uh, be devoid of any other desire other than the desire to please Krishna, and jnana karma, the anavritam, which means their practice should not be covered by jnana karma and other items. Okay. So, and we try to understand the Sanyabhilashita Shunyam, which indicates purity of goal, right? So, so here it is mentioned other desires means means any other desire other than the desire to please Krishna through bhakti. In other words, bhakti that is aimed at achieving bhakti is proper, otherwise it is improper, right? So, and then we try to understand why is it Anya Abhilashita Shunyam and not Anya Abhilasha Shunyam? Because Anya Abhilasha Shunyam would literally mean one should under no circumstances have a desire other than the desire to please Krishna. Under no circumstances. So the problem with this kind of definition is that under life-threatening situations, someone like, let's say the example of Draupadi and others, they may call for Krishna for self-protection under extreme situations. So if under, even though, under normal circumstances, she always favorably thinks of Krishna for pleasing Krishna. She serves Krishna for pleasing Krishna. But under extreme circumstances, sometimes someone may actually worship Krishna for self-protection, like in the case of Draupadi when she was trying to be disrobed. So, so therefore, if you define bhakti to be Anya Abhilasha Shunyam and not Anya Abhilashita Shunyam, then it would exclude Draupadi from being a pure devotee, because under a particular circumstance, she did pray to Krishna for self-protection and not essentially for pleasing Krishna. So, therefore, Anya Bilashita Shunyam means devoid of other desires that are deep-rooted as one's nature. So, in a life-threatening situation, a devotee might ask for the Lord to save him. This is just a temporary desire and it is not a desire that is deep-rooted in his nature. Hence, this is not harmful for his bhakti. So, in order to accommodate such extreme situations, Srila Rupa Goswami very beautifully defines bhakti as Anya Abhilashita Shunyam and not Anya Abhilasha Shunyam. Like that. Then we try to understand what is Jnana Karma, the Anavritam, uncovered by Jnana Karma and other processes. Karma refers to Nitya Naimittika karmas and not actions related to serving the Lord. And Jnana refers to and the knowledge which is favorable for nourishing one's, knowledge which is meant for nourishing the path of the faith on the path of jnana and not the faith of bhakti. Okay. And Adi refers to Vairagya, Sankhya, Yoga, etc. Such things obstruct bhakti. Okay. Then we discussed why is it mentioned to be Jnana Karma, the Anavritam, and not Jnana Karma Shunyam? Because Jnana Karma Shunyam would mean one should give up the limbs of bhakti also. Or one should give up the knowledge, pure devotional knowledge also. So therefore, anything which covers the pure devotional knowledge or pure devotional practice, that should be given up. That is why it is Jnana Karmadi Anavritam, not Jnana Karmadi Shunyam. Okay. So then we did this exercise. Now that we have understood the definition of pure devotional service, how many of you feel that your practice of devotional service is pure according to this definition? So you all voted. Most of you, practically all of you voted that no, I don't think that my practice is pure devotional. And you shared your reasons. Practically all of you said the problem is with Anya Bilashita Shunyam. And even though you did not mention, but I'm sure you would appreciate that the problem is also with the word Anu in Anushilanam, which indicates continuous engagement of mind, body, and words in the service of Krishna. So continuity is an issue, and having other desires, that is an issue, right? So therefore, um, so then we discuss which aspect of the definition are you not able to follow. Most of you answered Anya Bilashita Shunyam and Anu continuous. So if your practice is not pure devotional service, then are you practicing mixed devotional service? Well, we do not know. For that, we need to know what is mixed devotional service. So we try to understand what is mixed devotional service from Kapila Dev's teachings in the third canto, where he describes what is tamasic bhakti, rajasic bhakti, and sattvika bhakti. So tamasic bhakti is when an angry person who is devoid of compassion, he worships Krishna with the intention of violence, pride, and hatred. That is tamasic. And the rajasic bhakti is one who worships Krishna with desires for other objects like material gain, fame, wealth, etc. That is rajasic bhakti. And sattvika bhakti is when one worships Krishna with a desire to destroy karma, while executing the worship as a duty with a desire for liberation. That is sattvik bhakti. So after seeing these definitions, when I asked you, does your practice fit these definitions of mixed devotional service? Practically everyone answered yes. It looks like my practice is sometimes sattvic, sometimes rajasic, and some of you said sometimes it is tamasic also, right? So it looks like it's a mixture of 2 or 3 shades of mixed devotional service. So then we said, okay, how about a third option? Then we tried to hear the definition of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti from Srimad Bhagavatam, which is quoted by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu as a proof when he describes Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. So he quotes this as, so he says, Jata Shraddho Matkatasu Nirvinna Sarvakarmasu Veda Dukkatmakam Kaman Parityage Api Anishwaraha Tato Bhajeta Mam Prita Shraddalo Dridanischaya Jushamanashchatan Kaman Dukkodarkamscha Garthayan. Okay. So he describes the symptoms of a Vaidhi Sadhaka, classic symptoms of a Vaidhi Sadhaka, at least in the initial stages, right? So he has awakened faith in the process of bhakti, and he has no inclination for karma, jnana, yoga, etc. He understands that sense gratification leads to suffering eventually, but still he is not always able to say no to sense gratification. Time and again, he succumbs to sense gratification. And whenever he succumbs to sense gratification, he feels guilty and repentant. Okay. And then Krishna says, instructing such devotees, he says that please do not give up your worship of me. Don't feel so depressed that you are not able to follow the highest standards. Don't start doubting the process, and slowly try to enhance your determination to follow it better. Like that, he says. So after hearing this definition, we again asked you to do a polling. We saw 3 definitions. Definition of Uttama Bhakti, which all of you said no, it does not fit. Definition of mixed devotional service, which all of you said yes, it fits. And then the third definition, Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And then I told you, tell me which best fits your practice, best suits your practice. And practically all of you said Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. The definition of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti best fits your practice. Okay. Then what about mixed devotional service? Then we understood mixed devotional service. Why you voted both for mixed devotional service and Vaidhi Sadhana? Because it looks very similar. But the difference between Vaidhi Sadhana and mixed devotional service is, in mixed devotional service, one engages in material activities because of those material urges. One comes to them. Whereas in mixed devotional service, one actively prays for the fulfillment of those material goals or material desires. Right. So, okay, fine. I am practicing Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, that everyone knows. But this is not what the course is about. The course is to understand whether we are practicing pure devotional service or not. Okay. Yeah. And another thing, is this Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti a type of mixed devotional service only? Or does it fall within the category of pure devotional service? What is it? This question also arises. So, Srila Rupa Goswami very clearly says that this Anya Bilashita Shunyam Jnana Karma Dhyanavartama Anukulyena Krishnana Shilanam Bhaktiruttama. This definition of Uttama Bhakti is the Paribhasha Sutra. So, every subsequent definition that comes in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that should include this definition of Uttama Bhakti. So, so he subsequently defines Sadhana Bhakti. So we saw that in Sadhana Bhakti, the word Bhakti indicates Uttama Bhakti. And then he defines Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And in Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti also, the word, it is Vaidhi Sadhana Uttama Bhakti. So Vaidhi Sadhaka is also practicing Uttama Bhakti only. So then this was a big shock for all of us. So the point is, but how can my Vaidhi Sadhana be pure devotional service if I have so many material desires? How is it Anya Bilashita Shunyam? This question arose. So we did this last, sort of kind of activity where we tried to understand the two types of desires. Desires which are born out of one's value system and desires which are born out of one's conditioning. The value system thinks in terms of what is right, what is wrong, whereas the conditioning is in terms of I like and I don't like. The value system is called as Shraddha, whereas the conditioning is called as Swabhava. And we understood yesterday that's often on a day-to-day basis a constant tug of war between desires which are born out of our conditioning and desires which are born out of our Shraddha. The Shraddha is called as, desires born out of Shraddha are called as Asha, whereas desires born out of conditioning are called as Anartha. And we saw some examples. And then towards the end of this, we did this exercise where I asked you to close your eyes. I gave you two bins, the Abhilasha bin and the Anartha bin. And I asked you to I asked you to segregate your desires in the form of Anarthas and Abhilashas. I asked you to put the Anartha Rupi desires in the Anartha bin and Abhilasha Rupi desires in the Abhilasha bin. And then you did this exercise, and then I asked you to hand over your Anartha bin to me, and then tightly hold on to your Abhilasha bin. Then I asked you, is your Bhakti Anya Abhilashita Shunyam? And all of you answered yes. Okay. So therefore, towards the end, we try to understand that how there is why Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti and mixed devotional service look similar, because both personalities seem to engage in material activities but there is a difference. Vaidhi sadhana is performing devotional service while being embarrassed by material desires in the form of anarthas. That is Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. While we are embarrassed by material desires in the form of anarthas. Whereas mixed devotional service is performing devotional service for fulfilling material desires in the form of abhilashas. So they are goals. So mixed devotees do not see those material desires as anarthas. They see them as valid goals need to be fulfilled. Okay, so this is where we ended our discussion yesterday. Okay, so now we will pause for some Q&A before we move on to the next part. If there are any quick discussion points, comments, questions, anything anyone would like to share, add, you can either raise your hands, I will unmute you. You can verbally ask your questions, or you can type your questions in the chat box and I will take those questions before we move on to today's session. Okay. Two hands up already. Ramangi Radhika Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam. Prabhuji, this Abhilasha is coming from the value system. So my question is, in the case of mixed devotional service, how could these Abhilashas come from a value system? Where such a value system is there in our Vedic scriptures? And how are they are approved devotees? They're approved, right, Prabhuji? They're authentic devotees.
Yeah, mixed devotees, right? Krishna says, Hato va prapsasi swargam jitva va bokshase mahim. So he says that, oh Arjuna, if you win, if you fight the battle and win, you will get to enjoy the kingdom. If you fight the battle and lose, and if you die, you will get to go to Swarga. So therefore, you should fight. So therefore, the Karma Shastras do, or the mixed devotional scriptures do approve material abhilashas also, or liberation as an abhilasha. It can be a goal also. Whereas those who have received the seed of pure devotional service through association of pure devotees, then they start seeing those abhilashas as anarthas, like that.
True, Prabhuji. In the case of passion and only Rajas and Sattva Guna, we understand they are a bit like Sakama, Nishkama and all that. But what about this Tamasic? It appears like sinful tendencies, right? Violence and all this. How can this be approved? If that is the case, why Sahajiyas are thrown out of this circle of devotees? Sahajiyas are also having sinful tendencies, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So why they are not in the circle of devotees then?
Not that they are not in the circle of devotees, but the problem is that their devotional service is, not, we don't say that none of the Sahajiyas are devotees only. But those Sahajiyas, Sahajiyas are devotees who have improper Sambandha Gyan. So their practice of devotional service is not rooted on proper Sambandha Gyan. So we don't say that Sahajiyas are not devotees. We say that Sahajiyas are misguided devotees. So the problem is that they think they are practicing pure devotional service, but they are improperly practicing it without properly taking guidance of the scriptures. So they give up dependence on scriptures before they become qualified to give up that dependence. So when they are still expect to be dependent on the injunctions of the scriptures, they have prematurely given up. So therefore, their faith is no longer Shastriya Shraddha. It has now become a kind of Laukiki Shraddha, a kind of sentimental faith. So therefore, from So from a particular kind of definition, you will have to exclude them from being devotees. Whereas at least the mixed devotees are still under the shelter of scriptures. Whereas the Sahajiyas, while they are not yet qualified to give up dependence on scriptures, they have prematurely given up. So therefore, their faith is not, there are two types of Shraddha. One is Lobamayi Shraddha, another is Shastra, Bhakti Shastra Vishwasamayi Shraddha. So devotees are of two types. They have to have either Lobamayi Shraddha or Bhakti Shastra Vishwasamayi Shraddha. So Bhakti Shastra Vishwasamayi Shraddha are the Vaidhi sadhakas, where the inspiration to practice bhakti is coming from the injunctions of the Bhakti Shastras. If you do not, if not, you should at least have Lobamayi Shraddha, where the faith is coming from a genuine greed to follow in the footsteps of the Vrajavasis. But that kind of genuine greed, manifests only after the stage of Nishta, not before that, when the heart is infested with lot of material desires. So the Sahajiyas misunderstand this. They give up Bhakti Shastra Vishwasamayi Shraddha much before they reach Nishta. And they presume that they have Lobamayi Shraddha when they don't have. So they neither have Lobamayi Shraddha nor have Bhakti Shastra Vishwasamayi Shraddha. So therefore, their Shraddha is actually Laukiki Shraddha. It's a kind of sentimental faith. So therefore, we don't put them strictly under the category of devotees. Whereas these tamasic bhaktas, they are at least following scriptures. So they have not given up. They have Shastra Vishwas, but just that they, apart from having Shastra Vishwas, they sometimes use that Shastra Vishwas to, sort of cause violence towards others also.
But that
So
should
that
be
is,
considered as anartha only, na Prabhuji. It is not coming
yeah,
from value
not
system.
not that they don't have anarthas. That is anartha also, and at the same time they consider it as an abhilasha also. So for them, they see it as an abhilasha.
Okay. They consider their perspective and their perception.
Yeah. Abhilasha is from the practitioner's perspective only.
Okay.
Abhilasha is from the practitioner's perspective only. If the practitioner sees it as a goal, it is his goal. If the practitioner sees it as an anartha, it is an anartha. So whether anartha or goal is from the perspective of the practitioner only. So for a Jnana Mishra Bhakta, liberation is an abhilasha. But for a Shuddha Bhakta, liberation is an anartha. So this concept of abhilasha and anartha is from the perspective of the practitioner only. It's not from the perspective of Krishna. From the perspective of Krishna, if you see, except for pure devotional service, everything is an anartha. But from the perspective of the practitioner, depending on his faith or depending on his adhikar or qualification, he sees certain things as abhilasha and certain things as anartha, like that.
Wonderful, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes. Keshav Priyamataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavad Pranam. Prabhuji, defining Abhilasha, we did an activity, last activity, Prabhuji. In that, you were telling two examples you are showing us, Prabhuji, like one who wants to follow the orders of Guru, and one who wants to chant quality rounds. Those things we defined as Abhilasha, Prabhuji. So, my doubt is, why should it become Sunyam? It is our eternal, like we
No,
should
that is
have
not
both.
Shunyam. That is not
Then that
Shunyam.
is only we defined as Abhilasha.
No. What is it? It says Anya Abhilashita Shunyam. Any other desire other than this should be zero. So desire to please Krishna, please the spiritual master is a subset of wanting to establish a relationship with Krishna. It is a personal desire only. So we say it is not Abhilashita Shunyam, it is Anya Abhilashita Shunyam. Anya means any other desire other than this. That should be zero.
Okay, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, when describing Draupadi, you are explaining that about Abhilasha, you are explaining that it is a desire coming out of our deep-rooted nature.
Hmm.
Then
It
that
is
means it is
not
anartha only, no?
her. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
when she called out, her
Hmm.
deep-rooted nature is not to call always Krishna for self-protection. You know.
Yes,
So
Prabhuji.
Krishna give me this, Krishna give me that, Krishna protect me, Krishna do this, Krishna do this. No. She's always her remembrance of Krishna under normal circumstances is only to glorify him, please him. But this was a very extreme situation under which she had to call Krishna for self-protection. But this is not the natural nature of Draupadi. So it is not a desire which is deep-rooted in her nature. That is what it means.
Hmm. Prabhuji, then again this Abhilasha and Anartha, Prabhuji, like Abhilashas means one who follows the pure devotional service and whatever instruction regarding that, everything is Abhilasha. Is it, Prabhuji? Other than
For
that,
us,
everything is Anartha.
for if you are talking for only pure devotees, practicing pure devotees, then for them, Abhilasha is any desire which can favorably enhance our establishing a relationship with Krishna, that is Abhilasha. And that which comes from the instructions of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And Shastra means pure devotional scriptures. So any instructions of practice or desire which comes from the pure devotional scriptures uh, for practicing pure devotees, that is Abhilasha. But any desire which is born out of our own likes and dislikes is an anartha. Of course, this is an oversimplified definition. Uh, there are details to it because there are certain things, like for example, you may say that even before coming to Krishna consciousness, I used to wake up early in the morning. So now that I have come to Krishna consciousness, I don't wake up early because the scriptures say, but I wake up early because it's my practice. So it is born out of my conditioning only. So is that an anartha? No. Here not it is an anartha because this desire born out of conditioning, it is sort of very favorable for our practice of bhakti. So you don't call it as an anartha actually in that sense. So therefore, I do understand it's little bit of an oversimplified definition that I have given, but just for understanding purpose like that.
Prabhuji, then this value system you are mentioning, no, Prabhuji. So value system for devotees like us, it is pure devotional service, and for mixed for some people of karma yogi, jnana yogi, their value system for karma yogi, their value
Will
system is
be
varnashrama dharma.
Yeah, for them the value systems will be based on
Is
the dharma
varnash.
shastras, jnana
Yes,
shastras,
Prabhuji.
etc. And for them they will accept um, karma. The elements of karma are accepted for them. The elements of jnana are accepted for them. But for those who have developed, those who have received the pure devotional faith, for them it is not accepted.
Then their abhilasha will be anartha
Will
for
change.
us. No, Prabhuji.
Their abhilasha will be anartha for us. For them, for the karma yogis, swarga is an abhilasha. For a devotee, swarga is an anartha.
Yes, that's what I
For
got.
like that. Yeah. So that is why I defined that this abhilasha and anartha, their definitions change from person's adhikar to adhikar. So for if you have karma adhikar, certain things which you have an abhilasha and certain things you identify as anartha. So for example, if someone has karma adhikar, so then for him, swarga, etc. If he is sakama karma adhikar, then swarga is abhilasha, but sinful activity, sinful desires are anarthas. Okay. So if someone becomes nishkama karma yogi, then desire for swarga becomes an anartha. Okay. And desire for purification of desire for liberation becomes an abhilasha. When someone takes up to bhakti, then desire for swarga, desire for liberation, both become anarthas, and desire for establishing a relationship with bhakti, a relationship with Krishna, that becomes Abhilasha, like that. So what
So
is
the
Abhilasha,
last
what is
slide.
Anartha varies.
So the last slide is not in connection with the Abhilasha, what you have mentioned here. No, like that Abhilasha is Abhilasha of Gyanis and Yogis, like that last slide, Prabhuji, definition of mixed devotional service. That one
Yeah,
you
this
are,
is the slide.
Prabhuji. Yeah, this one, Prabhuji. So this Abhilasha is for is not for pure devotional desires.
Yeah. This Abhilasha is Anya Abhilasha. For us, it is Anya Abhilasha. See,
Yeah,
Abhilasha
that is
means
what I
goal.
was confused.
So you see the word Abhilasha means goal, and that changes from person to person. So for mixed
Prabhuji, the
devotees,
previous slide, Abhilasha, we defined as those two, Prabhuji, like instruction of Guru
no.
and
No,
desire to
because the
chant.
previous because the previous slide was for devotees. Here I am contrasting them with mixed devotional service. Mixed devotees. Mixed devotees, they have material desires in the form of abhilashas. But for pure devotees, for them, material desires are arthas. But for other people, for Karma Mishra Bhaktas, material desires can be abhilasha also. For them, not for us. Not for us.
Okay. Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Pranam. Prabhuji, am I audible? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
So 1 minute, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Balram Shakti Prabhu, you are muted, Prabhu. Can't hear you.
Muted. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. 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 Okay, Mata, you can speak. I didn't realize I was muted. Okay, you can speak. We can hear you.
Yeah. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Pranam. Prabhuji, my question is, depending on the stages you said, ki anarthas and abhilashas can vary, you know, what belongs to one's abhilasha can be another one's anarthas.
I didn't say depending on stages. I said depending on different qualifications. Because if you mean stages to mean, anartha nivritti, nishta, ruchi, asakti, bhava, prema. No, in those stages, abhilasha and anartha does not change. Abhilasha is abhilasha, anartha is anartha only. But if we are here talking about two different practitioners. One is a mixed devotee, another is a practicing pure devotee. So for them, the abhilashas and anarthas can be different. So these are not two stages; these are two different paths. So in different stages of the same path, the abhilashas and anarthas do not change; they are the same.
Okay, so Prabhu, is it something related to this neophyte stage or madhyam adhikari, uttam adhikari? It's something to do with these stages. I'm little confused about. I'm not.
Of course, I mean, these definitions of Uttama, Kanishta, Madhyama, they vary from book to book. I mean, which definition of Uttama, Kanishta, and Madhyama you're talking about, Mati? Because NOD gives a different definition, Bhagavatam gives a different definition, Nectar of Instruction gives a different definition, and Chaitanya Charitamrita gives two different definitions. So, which definition of Uttama, Kanishta, Madhyama you're talking about?
No, actually, Prabhu, no, I got it, Prabhu. When I meant these stages, what I meant was somebody who is, well, everybody is ultimately trying to move towards the pure devotional service, pure devotional bhakti only. So,
No.
somebody who.
No. That is only from Krishna's point of view. From the practitioner's point of view, the Karma Yogi does not know, now I am practicing Karma Yoga, but eventually I have to practice Bhakti Yoga. He does not know that. A Karma Yogi, when he is performing Karma Yoga, his goal is to achieve the goal of Karma Yoga, which may be Swarga, or if he is practicing Nishkama Karma Yoga, then his goal may be liberation. He is not thinking that, ultimately my goal is to eventually practice Shuddha Bhakti. No, they don't know that.
Okay. So, Prabhu, you define desires arises from two ways. One is because of your conditioning, the other is because of the value system. So, Prabhu,
Mhm.
conditioning is the same for everyone. Like conditioning means your Purana, because of influenced by your Purana baggage, previous baggage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And value system is Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. What they say, that is the value system.
Correct.
Okay. And Prabhu, one more thing. Prabhuji, when we talk about having some material desires, so in whatever stage we are, so Prabhuji, that means we are making that 10th offense, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So when we are making this 10th offense, so then also we are in the pure devotional stage.
Practicing. Are you trying to give up 10th offense? Do you eventually wish to give up the 10th offense, or you want to continue practicing the 10th offense?
I definitely want to get over it, overcome
Yeah.
that. Okay.
So so there is a difference. So that is why there are two types of aparad. Aparad, which is performed by, there are three types of aparad actually. Nam aparad. Nam aparad, which is performed by outright atheists and Mayavadis. Nam aparad performed by mixed devotees, and Namaparad performed by practicing devotees. These are three different things. So Namaparad performed by the practicing devotees are those who are trying to give up these offenses but are unable to give up. Whereas mixed devotees, they are they are convinced that they have to give up some offenses, but they are not convinced that they have to give up all the offenses. So that is called as Pratibimba Namabhas. That's a different thing. That's a different kind of offense. And atheistic people, they are not even convinced that they have to worship Krishna. So they may commit all the 10 offenses. So all these three types of Namaparad are three different types of Namaparad. While the first type of Namaparad will destroy their chance of coming to bhakti. The second type of namaparad performed by the mixed devotees, it will give them their mixed devotional goals. Whereas the type of namaparad which a practicing sadhaka is performing, he is trying to give up but unable to give up. Gradually, with more and more anartha nivritti, he will be more equipped to give up those aparads also over a period of time.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, just one more thing. Prabhuji, yesterday in the session you mentioned, ki whatever we want to get rid of, we should start, taking baby steps from whichever stage we are. Maybe we should try wo cheez. If we are doing that very frequently, we should try to do it after 2 days or 3 days, reduce the frequency or something. And slowly, gradually, we will overcome. So, Prabhuji, we all, at least I know what my anarthas are, right? And I have discussed with a lot of devotees also. But Prabhuji, that that urge to take that baby steps, it's not come. How it happens,
Okay,
that
did you discuss it with other devotees, Mataji?
I did, Prabhuji, but I don't.
So, I mean, just 1 second. Is that not a baby step?
Ji, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not that if you have discussed and they have given some solution, it's not that immediately you start applying it. So even you may not start applying it immediately, but mentally you may be thinking unconsciously that someday I have to start applying it. That is also a baby step.
Okay. Ji, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Kalanidhi Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, I am trying to digest what you have been telling in terms of Abhilasha and Anartha. One misgiving keeps disturbing me. I don't know, you'll be addressing it in the coming classes, but let me articulate it to the best of my ability. Let us take the example of a Mayavadi. He knows that everything is ultimately Maya, but still he cannot give up doing some kind of a philanthropic work, social service, etc. Like Prabhupada says, they come down to the material platform, even though they know that everything is Maya. So that we understand as something like theory and practice. Theoretically,
No. That is not theory and practice. That Mayavadi, he's a fallen Mayavadi. It's not like mm, you know.
True, Prabhuji. I am
So
approaching from the same angle. Can I wrongly assume that I am a pure devotee while I am actually not? I am a fallen devotee. Like I am unable to give up my anarthas. I am still trying to convince myself that I am a pure devotee because I am simply unable to give up my anarthas. I am struggling, but the anarthas are not going away. But still, I take shelter in this definition and say, okay, this is the misgiving that
so
is just.
the problem is, Prabhuji, if I say you are a pure devotee, so now let me so if you say, okay, I accept Prabhuji, Kalanidhi Prabhu, you are not a pure devotee. So what type of devotee are you then? Are you a mixed devotee?
Yeah, I
According to the
understand.
definition, you have to speak. You have to speak according to the definition. Are you a mixed devotee?
No, it doesn't fit in there.
So then where do you fit?
Yeah, it has to be Vaidhi sadhana only.
So see, I am telling you, we are not telling that you are a perfected pure devotee. So pure indicates the path, not the practitioner. So why you are taking it so personal? Pure indicates the path. At least the actions that are triggered by your Shraddha, are they pure or not? So
Is
because
that what you mean when you say weak Shraddha? Is it like that?
yeah, weak Shraddha.
So weak
Yeah.
Shraddha prevents the anarthas from being destroyed.
No, weak Shraddha, yeah. If you have weak Shraddha, and one of the causes of weak Shraddha is also anarthas. And gradually when the Shraddha becomes stronger and stronger, anartha nivritti will happen. So, I mean, you can't say that you are still exactly the same since the day you took up to Bhakti and right now. Definitely some level of anartha nivritti has happened, and some of the anarthas you must have definitely given up. So it is not exactly that it's exactly status quo, nothing has changed. I mean, I would be
That's
surprised if.
it is the core stubborn anarthas that we are grappling with, and that makes you
So
so
that is why it is important, Prabhu. We will be touching this point little later. We should know when which anarthas will go. Otherwise, we may have unrealistic expectations. That is one thing. One thing is when which anarthas will go, and second thing is, are we are our practices perfect in terms of chanting? Say for example, are we trying to put the best effort possible? So then anartha will be faster. Hearing, are we trying to put our best effort possible? Then anartha will be still more faster. Association, am I taking association very diligently? Then anartha will be still more faster. So it is bhakti is not black and white, na Prabhu. So it depends on your intensity of practice also, how diligently we take the limbs. To that extent, anartha will be fast. So if we are doing the bare minimum, but expect extraordinary anartha nivritti, then that may be unrealistic expectations. It is not that you have become a mixed devotee, but then your expectations are not proportional to the effort that you are putting, probably.
Yeah, I get it. So this discussion, what we are having in terms of distinguishing between Abhilasha and Anartha, should eventually lead us to appreciate where exactly we stand, whether we have to do something about purification of our Abhilasha or not, or whether we have to deal with our Anarthas and get rid of them so that our, as you said, Shraddha can actually become strengthened and we can continue. So, Prabhuji, so at some point of time, you will be giving some tips in terms of dealing with anarthas. As you said, you will say at which stages what we can reasonably expect in terms of getting rid of anarthas.
Yes, I agree that it's a very important important topic to discuss, but it is beyond the scope of this course. But we have definitely discussed this in other books like Manasiksha and and in Madhurya Kadambini, we have extensively discussed this. So, but with this, it is this discussion on Anartha Nivritti is not within the scope of this 4-session course.
Okay, okay, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Mother Gail.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yeah, two things, follow-ups. You were saying that it's not maparad to have material desires. But my understanding was that the aparad is to maintain those desires.
Correct.
You know?
True.
Okay, I just wanted to see if that distinction was valid.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
And the other question is, I have some confusion when it comes to Vaidhi Bhakti and Uttama Bhakti. So you just finished describing Uttama Bhakti as a path. So does Vaidhi Bhakti pertain more to the practitioner rather than to a path?
Yeah. So Vaidhi indicates at what stage is he practicing Uttama Bhakti, because Uttama Bhakti can be practiced at the stage of Vaidhi sadhana. Uttama Bhakti can be practiced at the stage of Raganuga sadhana. Uttama Bhakti can be practiced at the stage of Bhava. Uttama Bhakti can be practiced at the stage of Prema. There are stages even beyond Prema, like Pranaya, Raga, Mana, Anuraga, Mahabhava, like that. So those stages indicate at what stage is Uttama Bhakti practiced. So Uttama Bhakti, so Vaidhi sadhana indicates that the practitioner is practicing Uttama Bhakti at the level of Vaidhi sadhana. That's what it means.
Oh, that's perfect, Prabhu. And so therefore, that explanation, I think, reconciles this issue of our not being continuous in our devotion.
Yeah. So now we have to get into that. That is the next point. What about continuity? That is a problem that needs to be addressed. We will address it very soon.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. One last question, of course, two questions. One hand up, one verbal question and one chat box question we will take. Yes, Krishna Nam Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes,
Prabhu, this Anusilanam, that is not still very clear to me, Prabhu. What do you mean by continuous practice? Is it even at the stage of Vaidhi Sadhaka Bhakti? I don't think we are able to continuously, without any interruption.
Correct. But we are going to discuss. That is the point of the next discussion. We are going to discuss that.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Okay, one last question and then we will move on to today's discussion. Any specific reason for Gauna Lakshana 1 and 2 are mentioned first and Mukhya Lakshana 3 and 4 are mentioned later? I don't know about that. No. Any reason why that particular order of mentioning Mukhya and Gauna Lakshanas? I am not aware. I don't know. Okay. Okay, so we have spent sufficient time recapping and taking questions. Don't worry, I have factored in all this time in the seminar because I knew these questions will come up. So the time that I have allotted for this seminar, which is 8 hours, factors in all these things. So you don't have to worry if I will leave the seminar incomplete or I will take extra sessions to take this seminar. No, I'll complete it on time. Don't worry. So that is why I wanted to give sufficient time for Q&A. That is why that which I could complete in 2 hours, I have taken 8 hours so that we have sufficient time interacting with each other so that we can understand the concepts clearly. So we have more than sufficient time. Okay. So now the next point is about one problem. Okay. We understood the difference between Abhilashas and Anarthas. We understood that, yes, even though I may have Anarthas, but still my practice of Bhakti can be Anya Abhilashita Shunyam. We have understood that. But what about the problem of continuity, which is Anu in Anushilanam? It says continuous engagement of mind, body, and senses in the service of Krishna. How we are not doing continuous? So how is our Bhakti Shuddha Bhakti? This question comes, right? So in talking about Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, Srila Rupa Goswami quotes this verse from Padma Puran. Often Srila Prabhupada also quotes this verse. Smartavya satatam Vishnor Vismartavyo na jatuchit Sarve Vidhi Nishedhasyur Etayoreva Kinkaraha. So he says, what does this verse say? He says, Smartavya Satatam Vishnuhu. Satatam, one should always remember Vishnu. Vismartavyo na jatuchit, one should never forget him. Sarve Vidhi Nishedhaha, all the injunctions and prohibitions, Etayoreva Kinkaraha Syuhu, they are all dependent on these two principles. This is what the verse says. And commenting on this, Srila Jiva Goswami, in his commentary to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he says, scriptural injunctions such as Aharaha Sandhya Upasita, one must worship daily at the Sandhyas, and Brahmanona Hantavyaha, one should not kill a Brahmana, are dependent on the injunctions to remember the Lord always and the prohibition never to forget him. Which means to do the opposite, that is making remembrance of Vishnu secondary to all other rules, will yield opposite results. So remembering Vishnu is primary. All the other rules are secondary. But if you make remembrance of Vishnu secondary, then you are not practicing all the other rules. Because all rules are dependent upon remembrance of Vishnu. If one remembers Vishnu, what is instructed in all the other rules is automatically accomplished. If one is able to remember Vishnu, then automatically all the other rules are accomplished. And because all prohibitions such as killing cows and brahmanas are also included in the rule to remember Vishnu, therefore, if one forgets Vishnu, that person should be considered to have accrued unlimited sins produced by committing all the prohibited acts. Like that. So now you may wonder what this has in connection, what this explanation has in connection with continuity, Anushilanam. In the next line, he says, Satatam means every day, not every second. Why? Since continuous remembrance would be impossible to do in sadhana bhakti, and this would produce loss of faith in the rules of bhakti because they would be impossible to follow. If you say satatam is every second you should follow, then it would be impossible for devotees. For sadhakas, it is not possible. Actually, this kind of satatam is possible only at the stage of bhava bhakti. So, which means till bhava bhakti, one cannot practice pure devotional service. Is that what it means? No. Right. So, therefore, Srila Jiva Goswami says satatam means every day and not every second. So, therefore, so understanding Anu in the case of sadhakas. So, sadhakas perform three types of, their day is engaged in three types of activities. You can tell me whether my assessment is right or wrong. Okay. First, they are engaged in performing the limbs of devotional service. Kravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Arch, etc. One is engaged in doing that. Either some time may be engaged in that activity. Some time may be engaged in planning to improve one's own practice. Today I completed my rounds only at 10 o'clock at night. So tomorrow I have to improve, So like that, some time may be engaged in planning to improve one's practice. And the third may be utilized in firefighting. Firefighting means dealing with the anarthas, which are obstacles to continuous practice. Right? Either we are succumbing to anger, succumbing to greed, succumbing to illusion, succumbing to pride, and indulging in activities which are impelled by these anarthas and trying to rectify them. Array, I should not have done this. Somehow I will try to pull it back. So you are engaging in one. So while you are engaging in one, suddenly there is a fire, either the fire of lust, fire of greed, fire of anger, fire of illusion, fire of pride. And then you start firefighting, dealing with these anarthas. And then you go to 2. How do I fix it? Next time it comes. So a sadhaka's day goes on in shifting between 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, like that. Either he is engaging in devotional service and either he is engaging in devotional service inspired by Shraddha. So this act is inspired by Shraddha. This act is inspired by his Shraddha. Okay. And this act is inspired by his Swabhava. So this is inspired by his Swabhava. So even though he is performing an activity, he is indulging in an activity is inspired by his Swabhava, his Shraddha is still the same. His Shraddha has not changed. Therefore, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Shraddha mayoyam purushaha yoyat shraddha saeva saha. So a person is defined based on his Shraddha. Shraddha mayoyam purushaha yoyat shraddha saeva saha. So a person is defined or described based on his Shraddha. So what is his Shraddha? So even when a person is succumbing to his bhava, his Shraddha does not change. And a person is defined whether he is a mixed devotee or a pure devotee. That definition is based on his Shraddha and not based on his Swabhava. Right? So therefore continuous. So continuous for a sadhaka means, for all practical purpose, 1 plus 2 plus 3. He should either be engaged in 1 or 2 or 3. He cannot be engaged in activities which are harmful to his devotional service, because he thinks that this is perfectly all right. Chalta hai. It is perfectly all right. I don't think if I sit and watch television for half an hour, I don't think it is unfavorable for my devotional service. I really don't think. So if this is a problem, if he thinks, then this is what is called as this is what is called by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Sorry, not Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur calls this as Tattva Vibrama. So Tattva Vibrama means improper understanding of the process. And one type of Tattva Vibrama is Bhakti Pratikula Vastu Tattva Vibrama. Improperly understanding what is Pratikul for one's Bhakti. So sometimes someone may be watching TV, a devotee may be watching TV, and if you corner him, everyone has false ego. So you will tell, the other day you were doing this, now you are criticizing me like that. But all said and done, internally he knows this is not the best thing to do. I should not be doing this. He knows that. So ultimately, the problem is he may be engaging in activities inspired by his lust, anger, envy, greed, illusion, and pride, but that is inspired by his swabhava. And after he engages, he may try to rectify it also. So continuous for a sadhaka means, so continuous for a sadhaka factors in 1, 2, and 3. And as and when anartha nivritti becomes more and more accomplished, 1 and 2 increases and 3 starts decreasing. So 3 will start decreasing. Okay. So there will be less and less time um, uh, utilized in this firefighting. So this is what in Madhurya Kadambini, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes 6 different types of firefighting. 6 different types of firefighting he talks about. Before one reaches Nishta, there are 6 different types of firefighting which are performed by sadhakas. Sadhakas means sadhakas whose practice is not yet steady. So that is called as Anishtita Bhajana Kriya. Anishtita Bhajana Kriya means where the Bhajana Kriya or practice of bhakti is unsteady. Is unsteady why? Unsteady because of firefighting, because of constant firefighting. And the nature of this firefighting also changes. It keeps changing gradually when it reaches Nishta. So he talks about 6 types of firefighting. Okay. 6 stages, you can also say, because they are generally, even though they may be overlapping, but generally one comes after another, like that. Okay. So first is called as Utsahamayi, second is called as Ghana Tarala, third is called as Vyuda Vikalpa, fourth is called as Vishaya Sangara, fifth is called as Niyamakshama, sixth is called as Tarangarangini. So what they are, we are going to see now. So what are these various various stages or types of you can say firefighting we are going to see now. Very briefly, we don't have much time to elaborately see it, but what I want you to do is just fasten your seat belts, close your eyes, or you can choose not to close your eyes also. Hear this description and see if you have gone through these stages or if you are going through these stages. Okay. So this is what I am calling as firefighting. Okay. So when someone takes up to bhakti in the initial stages, he goes through this first stage, which is called as Utsahamayi. So Utsahamayi means false confidence. So false confidence. So he gives example in his very brief example in his Madhurya Kadambini. He says, a Brahmana child having just begun study of the scriptures thinks he has immediately become a learned scholar worthy of everyone's praise. Similarly, a person just beginning devotional service may develop the audacity to think that he has mastered everything. He is called Utsahamayi or puffed up with enthusiasm. Like you may see in the initial stages, others are you yourself. Okay. So suddenly, you come to know about bhakti, and then you go home and tell your parents, you people are karmis, you're wasting your time reading newspaper, watching TV. Huh? You should not be doing this. You should be always engaged in Shravanam Kirtanam. So, and then, or you may do like that, or you may say like, uh, once you learn about chanting, you may get your chanting beads and then sit and chant and chant and chant and chant and chant, looking around who is watching you, and then you may end up chanting maybe 64 rounds. And then you go around and ask people that, Prabhu, how many rounds you chant? He says 16 rounds. How many years you have been chanting? He says 12 years. And then you are internally thinking, wow, I must be a very advanced devotee. First day only 64. If today 64 means in 1 week I will make it 128. In 1 month I will make it 192. Looks very easy like that. Or one day you may come very early to the temple with super enthusiastic. You come to the temple for Mangalarti at 4 o'clock only. You come at 4 o'clock only and you see some brahmacharis are sleeping or some devotees are still sleeping. They are just going to wake up or they have just woken up. And you think, Arey, they are just waking up already for me 10 rounds over. So I must be a more advanced devotee. This will continue like this. So this is false confidence because you know that this is not sustainable. Like I remember, for, in our school, we used to have everyday physical training. I went to a boarding school. Every day we used to have physical training. So physical training morning 5:30 to 6:30. Okay. And every Saturday we used to have cross country race. So cross country race is like marathon. 10 kilometers marathon everyone has to run. So the new joined children, generally there is intake only in 6th standard. So the newly joined children in 6th grade, as soon as they say go, they say as soon as the race starts, they start sprinting like anything, and then they look around their shoulders. And seasoned runners are very peaceful. They are slowly running, at a very medium pace. And these people are looking around their shoulders, running really fast. And they think, wow, already, we have covered like in 100 meters, already have left them behind. We have covered twice the distance, which means I will end the race in half the time of that other person. You will think like that. Oh, I am just beginning. This is my first cross country race, but still I'm able to be so fast. Like that, he runs and runs and runs. And after half a kilometer, the race is already over. Right? They are puffing and panting, and they realize that. And these people who are coming behind, they pass and they end the race. But these people in half a kilometer, the 10-kilometer race is over. Because they had false confidence. They thought they didn't realize that this is not how it goes. So this is utsahamai, the initial stages, right? How many of you have experienced this stage of devotional service in your practice? You can please raise your hands. Ahamai, right? Okay, many devotees are raising your hands. Okay, so then comes the next stage, which is called as Ghana Tarala. So Ghana Tarala means, so he says, the same child sometimes becomes diligently engaged in his studies, and yet at other times, because of inability to understand the scriptures and lack of real taste, he becomes negligent. In the same way, a new devotee will sometimes practice the different activities of devotional service and sometimes neglect them. Being sometimes assiduous means very sincere, and at other times negligent, his endeavor is called as Ghana Tarala. Ghana means very condensed, thick, and Tarala means very dilute or thin. Thick and thin, like a sine wave. Okay. So, in the initial stage, it was going like this. But now from here, it becomes so. So the one day he chants 64 rounds, and next day he realizes that he has no desire to chant even one round. And then he thinks, Arey, but commitment is only for 16. Na? I've already chanted for 4 days. So today I will not chant. He thinks like that. So when he thought, today 64, by the end of the week 128, by the end of the month 192, no, today 64, tomorrow 0. But is that actually a fall down? No, this is actually a fall up, because this is actually coming in terms with reality. So this stage, Ghana Tarala, is the stage of coming in terms with reality. Even though I would like to chant 64 rounds today also, but in reality, I am not able to do it. right? So this coming in terms with reality, where you meet with the actual reality, which is thick and thin, thick and thin, thick and thin practice is what actually is my current capability. What the castles that I built within my mind were all castles on air only. I thought 264 tomorrow 128 is all, I am actually like after half a kilometer, I am puffing and panting. That is how good a marathon runner I am. So this is coming in terms with reality. This is called as thick and thin devotional service, Ghana Tarala. How many of you have gone through this stage of devotional service? You can please raise your hand. How many of you think you have gone through this stage of devotional service? Right? Many of you are raising your hands. Thank you. Now he comes to the third stage, which is called as Vyuda Vikalpa. So what is this Vyuda Vikalpa? Vyuda Vikalpa is the stage where he realizes that this thick and thin devotional service is not acceptable. I cannot continue this thick and thin devotional service. I have to have a steady practice of devotional service. I need to do it. So this is the stage where he realizes the need for steady devotional service, but is looking for solutions externally. You see, what does it mean to look for solutions externally? So he's thinking, now that I'm practicing devotional service, he thinks, oh, shall I just spend my life happily in family life, making my wife and children Krishna conscious and worshipping the Lord? Or should I give them all up and go to Vrindavan and perfect myself by engaging full time in hearing and chanting with no distractions? What should I do? Stay at home, take care of family, and along with the practice Krishna consciousness? Or should I go to Vrindavan and engage full time in hearing and chanting? No distraction. Shall I wait until the last stage after enjoying all sorts of pleasures, when I have finally understood that the whole material world is simply a forest fire of affliction? He says, right now I have not realized that this material world is a forest fire of affliction. I still think that I can enjoy. So why should I give up material, grahastha life right now? Let me realize it and then go. Or should I renounce it right now? And for each of these understandings, when he hears Bhagavatam, he gets some verses which nourishes that understanding. First, he hears these verses. Yopayati shanair maya yoshit deva vinirmita tam iksheta atmano mrityum rinaihi kupam ivavritam. Kapila Deva says, Maya in the form of a woman for man and man for woman, created by the Lord, approaches the man gently. One should see her as death, like a well covered with grass. And he thinks, okay, very clear. Bhagavatam is very clear. I should not get married. Because you see this thick and thin devotional service, I can overcome it only if I give up all this material life, go to Vrindavan, or I will go and join the Brahmayashram. One may think like that. And then see, Bharat Maharaj, what did he do? Yo dustyajan darasutan suhridragyam hridi sprishah jahau yuvaiva malavad uttama shloka lalasa. Like a stool, he gave up his wife, sons, friends, kingdom, everything. Even though he was young at age, I am also young. So therefore, the injunctions of the Shastras are very clear. If you want to practice devotional service steadily, give up your family and go to Vrindavan. or go to the brahmacharya ashram, whatever. So he's thinking, so should I thus give up the unreliable family life while still young? He's thinking like that. Or he thinks, uh, on the other hand, it is not proper to renounce immediately. Shouldn't I wait until the death of my parents before renouncing? He thinks like that. Because Bhagavatam, so he thinks like that. How can I leave my parents? So then he hears from Bhagavatam some verses supporting that understanding also. 11th canto. Aho me pitarau vriddau bharya balatmajatmaja anata ma mrite dina katam jivanti dukkitaha. So the verse says, oh, my poor elderly parents and my wife with a mere infant in her arms and my other young children. Without me, they have absolutely no one to protect them and they will suffer unbearably. How can my poor relatives possibly live without me? So maybe I should wait. Evam गृहाशयाक्षिप्त हृदयो मूढधीरयम् अतृप्तस्तान् अनुध्यायन् मृतो andam vishate tamaha. But again, he thinks, or thus because of his foolish mentality, householder whose heart is overwhelmed by family attachment is never satisfied. Constantly meditating on his relatives, he enters into darkness of ignorance. He thinks, no, 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 no. I should give them up because it will completely take me to deep darkness. So by such statements, the Lord depreciates such renunciation. Therefore, for the time being, I will just work to keep my body alive, he thinks. Later, after satisfying all my desires, I will enter Vrindavan and engage in worship of the Lord 24 hours a day. So like that, keeps going back and forth. What is the cause of my unsteady devotional service? So he thinks, family life. It may not be the same for all of us. Some of us may think, I have the wrong job. I have the wrong job. Maybe I'm improperly situated in my occupation. Maybe I should change my occupation. Maybe I should take up a house to, maybe I should take up a house close to my office so that I won't have to travel for so long. So that way, all that extra time, now I am spending 2 hours one way and 4 hours two-way for traveling. So if I take up a house close to my office, then I will say 4 hours, and all that 4 hours I can utilize in DT worship, chanting, and wonderful. So maybe I should do that. So it's not the same kind of Vyuda Vikalpa. For this is one kind of Vyuda Vikalpa that he's explaining here. There could be other kinds of Vyuda Vikalpa where the devotee is realizing, oh, my practice is unsteady. How do I overcome this unsteady practice? And he is seeing externally for solution. Okay. After all, the scriptures point out, Tasman madbhakti yuktasya yogino vai madatmanah na jnanam na cha vairagyam praya shreyo bhavediha. The scriptures very clearly say, no, no, um, don't, the path, bhakti is not perfected by jnana or vairagya. So don't think that you can perfect bhakti by vairagya. So if just give up my family and go to Vrindavan, that is just practice of vairagya. By that practice of vairagya, my bhakti will not become perfect. So therefore, I should stay back at home. He thinks like that. So according to this text, renunciation is a fault for the culture of bhakti. So he thinks, oh, vairagya destroys bhakti. So if it arises from bhakti itself, however, that renunciation is not a fault, but subordinate to. So I think it's okay. So I should not think that I can progress in bhakti due to renunciation. So I should not give up home. I should stay at home and practice. He thinks like that. But then again, here's, but when family life, burns him, it gives him some pinpricks. Then he hears verses which are opposite verses. So he hears, Yadyad ashramam agar sa bhikshukas tattad anna paripurnam aikshat. So in whatever ashram the sannyasi stayed, they always gave him more than enough to eat. So he thinks, oh, this is good. I don't have to necessarily work for thing. I can throughout the day perform Shravanam Kirtanam, and whenever I feel hungry, I go to any ashram, they will give me food. So this is a wonderful life. I should do this. So he thinks in this life of renunciation, there is no worry for maintenance. So maybe I should renounce. Otherwise, I'm working an ass here in this Grihastha ashram. But then again, he thinks, but when the family attachment pulls him, he thinks, oh, but Bhagavatam says, Tavad ragadayastena tavat karagraham graham tavan mohongri nigado yavat Krishna natejana. 10th canto, Brahmaji himself says, only yavat Krishna natejana, only if you are not a devotee and your family members are not a devotee, then the material attachments and desires will become thieves. The home will become prison house only if you are not a devotee and your family members are not devotees. But if your family members are devotees, Jedina grihe bhajana deki grihete goloka bhai. That is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur has told. That is what Brahmaji is telling in Bhagavatam. So therefore, and family affection to family members will bind me to this material world only as long as they are not devotees. But if they are devotees, that becomes Vaishnava Priti. That becomes attraction to a Vaishnava. So why should I leave home? So whenever family attraction pulls him, he thinks of this logic. Whenever family responsibilities prick him, he thinks of the other logic. And in this way, he goes back and forth, back and forth. Why is my devotional service so unsteady? What can I do to, become steady devotional service? Maybe I should change this, I should change that, right? So he thinks household life is a prison only for those who are attached but for a devotee, there is no harm in household life. Thus, shall I remain at home and engage in chanting, or rather in hearing, or shall I engage in service? Rather, as Ambarish Maharaj remained in household life and performed all the angas of bhakti, I will do likewise. Sometimes chanting, sometimes hearing, sometimes deity worship, all staying at home. Why should I go? Why should I leave home? So in this way, the mind spends time vacillating between household life and renunciation, or other such things, where you think that if I adjust this, if I adjust that, I will be very stably able to practice devotional service. So when one imagines in this way all types of options, it is called Vyuda Vikalpa or extensive speculation. Like that. This is the third type of firefighting that one does, trying to adjust the external things so that one can steadily practice bhakti, one can continuously practice bhakti. How many of you have gone through this stage of devotional service? Please raise your hands. This Vyuda Vikalpa. If I do this, if I adjust this, everything will be perfect. All that is lacking is only this small adjustment, then perfectly my devotional service will be very steady, right? Like that. Okay, thank you for answering. Then comes the next stage of Vishaya Sangara. Vishaya Sangara means where he realizes that the actual reason for unsteady practice is not something external, but it is my uncontrolled mind and senses. So he starts internally now. I changed everything, but still I shifted to a home closer to office. I thought 4 hours extra I will get. I will utilize it in chanting extra rounds and extra reading. Still my rounds are getting over only at 10 p.m. Still, I am not able to utilize those 4 hours in some useful things. What is the reason? Though, because those extra 4 hours, I am utilizing it in browsing the internet. And or, you know, other things, maybe fighting with my husband or fighting with my wife or maybe whatever. Maybe I go for morning badminton. You know, my college friends are calling me for every morning badminton playing. You know, they say that it is very good for your health. I go for that. But ultimately, at 10 o'clock only my rounds are getting over. So, विषयाविष्ट चित्तानां विष्णु आवेशः सुदूरतः वारुणी दिग्गतं वस्तु व्रजन ऐन्द्रीं किमाप्नुयात्. One whose heart is absorbed in materialism is far from obtaining devotion to Vishnu. Can a man by going east obtain something which is in the west? So now, understanding that material enjoyment is forcibly carrying him away and impairing his steadiness in serving Krishna, the devotee resolves to renounce his addictions and take shelter of the holy name. He realizes, my God, so much time I spent adjusting the internals, the actual problem, adjusting the externals, but the actual problem was internal. It is my uncontrolled mind and senses which has been fooling me. But many times his attempts at renunciation often end in enjoying what he is trying to renounce. I watch TV. I will not read newspaper. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and the 4th day again he indulges. Okay, so this is called as Visangara. You know, this fight with uncontrolled mind and senses, and this is what we saw in the class explanation of Vaidhi Sadhana. Jata Shraddho Matkataso Nirvinna Sarvaksu. You see, Veda Dukkatmakam Kaman, he knows that all sense gratification will eventually lead to misery and it is unfavorable for my bhakti, but still, Parityage api Anishwaraha. He is unable to always say no to sense gratification. So, in this way, he fights. This fight with the senses is called as Vishaya Sangra. This ongoing battle with his previously acquired desires for sense pleasure, in which he sometimes meets with victory and sometimes with defeat, is called Vishaya Sangara, or struggle with sense pleasure. So, not that in the previous stages there was no struggle with sense pleasure, but in this stage he realizes that the problem was not external, it was internal. So he has progressed because he has identified the right obstacle. Right. So that's why, so therefore, in this 4th stage, this firefighting takes this form. Okay. Succumbing to sense gratification and trying to get up. No, I will not do it. I will try to be better. So this back and forth, back and forth is called as Vishaya Sangara. How many of you have gone through this stage in your life? This kind of firefighting. How many of you have done this kind of firefighting in your practice of devotional service? Right? Yeah. Thank you. Then comes, at some point, he is able to fairly sort of control his gross desires to a great extent. He comes to the next stage, which is called as Niyama Akshama. Niyama Akshama means what? Then the devotee will resolve, from today I will chant such and such number of rounds of japa and will pay so many obeisances. I will also perform services for the devotees. I will not talk on any subject except the Lord, and I will give up all association with people who talk on material matters. You see the difference between Vishaya Sangara and Niyamakshama is Vishaya Sangara is he's trying to pull his senses away from senses and mind away from unfavorable engagement. But niyama kshama, the fifth stage is he is thinking positively to engage it in the right direction. So niyama means vow. So he takes some positive vows. So no longer is the nature of his firefighting, the nature of his firefighting, which used to be predominantly, oh, somehow I should avoid watching TV. Somehow I should avoid browsing the internet. Somehow I should avoid spending time on social media. From that, he comes to the nature of firefighting takes the form of, oh, I should try to increase my rounds. I should try to increase, my hearing. I should try to increase my reading of Bhagavatam. So this is, this is, the nature of firefighting changes here. But in doing this, though he makes such resolutions every day, he is not always able to execute. Sometimes he's able to execute, sometimes not. And gradually it improves. So this is called as niyama akshama. Inability to follow the rules, positive rules. We are not talking about regulative principles. So the regulative principles thing that will fall within the previous category of Vishaya Sangara. So Vishaya Sangara is the inability to give up material enjoyment, whereas Niyama Akshama is the inability to improve his devotional service. Right? How many of you have gone through this stage or this type of problem in your life, in your practice of Krishna consciousness, right? So this is another kind of firefighting, right? So this is a kind of firefighting, right? Then comes the next stage, which is Taranga Rangini. So Taranga Rangini means, yes, you are able to fairly control your senses. You are able to focus more on, enhancing your devotional practices. You're able to chant more, you're able to hear more, you're able to speak about Krishna very nicely. You're becoming very fixed up. And when you become very fixed up, what happens? Others will start observing you. When others will start observing you, what will happen? Finally, it is well known that the very nature of bhakti is to be attractive. So all types of people become attracted to the devotee who is the abode of bhakti. And as the old adage goes, by the attraction of the populace, one becomes wealthy. Bhakti produces much opportunity for material gain, worship, and position. Puja, labh, pratishtha. This is the problem. And in today's day and age, that day of social media, Taranga Rangini does not have to be for one passing through the 5 stages. Even in the beginning stages, you learn some shlokas nicely, you learn to speak nicely, you make 1-minute videos and you can become an instant hero or star. Even in the, or you make your child learn some shlokas, the child will quote the shlokas at a very young age, you record it and put it on YouTube. Overnight, one can become a sensation. Okay. So even though, because no one is watching you, everyone is watching your 1-minute video or 5 minutes video or half an hour video, whatever it is. But they are not seeing your real struggles. They are not seeing how successful you are. You have successfully overcome your Vyuda Vikalpa or even Dhana Tarala, or even Vishaya Sangara, your struggle with the senses. Because all they see you is for the 5 minutes or 10 minutes or half an hour or 1 hour on YouTube. That's all. So if you are able to speak nicely, then you become an instant star, right? So then comes Puja Labh Pratishtha, right? So Puja Labh Pratishtha comes. So these are weeds around the creeper of bhakti. So performing activities are seeking one's pleasure, ranga, amidst these weed-like facilities, which are but small waves in the ocean of bhakti, is called taranga rangini, delighting in material facilities. So yes, true, you have done something right, but instead of trying to go deep into the ocean of bhakti, we end up wasting time surfing the waves of Pujala Pratishtha. How many people have listened to my lecture? How many likes? Are there any comments? You know, and all of that. So that becomes we become distracted by this Tarangarangini. Even though when good intelligence dawns, one understands that what am I doing? You know, let me try to follow what I spoke in my class. I spoke that we have to go deep in bhakti, but I'm surfing the waves of Pujala Pratishtana. Right. So sometimes when good intelligence dawns, we criticize ourselves, right? And at other times, you know, so the firefighting takes this nature of dealing with Pujala Pratishtha, right? How many of you have gone through this stage in your life, right? This also happens, right? Pujala Pratishtha comes, right? How many of you feel that you got Pujala Pratishtha very premature, in a very premature way due to the influence of social media? How many of you feel that way? You know, Pujala Pratishtha came. I know I am still, you know, maybe Ghana Tarala or, you know, Vyuda Vikalpa or Vishaya Sangara is going on because people get to see me only on the screen. Therefore, they appreciate me. But I know my own struggles, right? This is there. So this is also a kind of firefighting, right? So, um, so therefore, you see here, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur talks, he discusses these 6 stages in the section on Anishtita Bhajana Kriya. So he discusses about, you know, Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya. In talking about Bhajana Kriya, he talks that these are the 6 types or 6 stages of Anishtita Bhajana Kriya, where in these 6 stages, what we discussed, firefighting, the nature of this firefighting changes. But eventually one is fighting because the fight comes from the inspiration from Shraddha. Okay. So so as soon as one succumbs to this fire, being inspired by the Swabhava, immediately one goes to, you know, and tries to, how can I improve? And the desire to improve comes from Shraddha. So therefore, the word Anu or continuous, as in the case of sadhakas, one should understand Anu means 1 plus 2 plus 3. Firefighting is also a part of the practice because the fire is raging not due to the Shraddha, fire is raging due to Swabhava. Gradually, when Anartha Nivritti becomes more and more, the initial Utsahamayi stage one will overcome, then Ghana Tarala stage will also become, one will overcome. So Ghana Tarala will also become, it will not be like 64 one day, 0 another day. You'll be steadily chanting 16 rounds, but sometimes it may be attentive, sometimes it may be a little less attentive, like that. You know, the nature of Ghana and Tarala will be, the crest and trough, their, their amplitude will become less and less, like that. So, and that way, gradually, we will, the nature of firefighting will keep changing. But firefighting will definitely be a part of a sadhaka's practice till he reaches the stage of bhava. At the stage of nishtha, the firefighting will become less. At the stage of ruchi, it will become even less. At the stage of asakti, it will become practically negligible. then at the stage of bhava it will not be there. So therefore, continuous, the lack of continuity is not due to contaminated Shraddha, but the lack of continuity is due to contaminated Swabhava. So therefore, one should not take continuous. So otherwise, then no one is practicing pure devotional service till he reaches the stage of bhava, because continuity will not be there till one reaches bhava. So, but that is not how our areas are defining. It's not that they say that till you reach bhava, you are practicing mixed devotional service, and from the stage of bhava, you are practicing pure devotional service. That is not what they say. So from Shraddha to Prema, all the 9 stages Srila Rupa Goswami is defining stages of practice of Uttama Bhakti only. And at the stage of Anish Bhajana Kriya, especially, these various shades of fighting will always be there. The intensity will go down, the nature will change, but firefighting is there. So just because one is doing the firefighting, that does not mean that the practice of bhakti is this thing. And also in Madhurya Kadambini, he says is another 5 obstacles before one reaches Nishta. Laya. Okay, you'll be chanting and then you will doze off. How many of you have experienced this in your practice of Krishna consciousness? Right? We feel drowsy while chanting, right? Laya, which is due to influence of ignorance. And then there is Shepa, distracted. So how many of you feel distracted while hearing, chanting, etc.? Right? This is primarily due to mode of passion, sometimes due to mode of ignorance also. And apratipatti means occasional lack of taste or indifference. Occasional lack of taste or indifference to practice of bhakti. Prabhu, I see that you have some free time. I have some free time. Let's chant some extra rounds. And then you say, no, Prabhu, not now. Why? Are you feeling tired, sleepy? No. Is something else eating your mind? No. Then why? Man nahi lag raha hai. It's just, I'm not having, I don't feel like chanting right now. Anyone feels like this in your practice of Krishna consciousness? Occasional lack of taste to perform some limbs of devotional service, right? Occasional, not always. It's not like, how many of you, whenever there is one moment of free time and you are so enthusiastically picking up your bead bag and you're chanting? Every time, same enthusiasm. Anyone? Right? So that is there. Occasional lack of taste or less taste is always there. Right? So, of course, apratipatti means occasional only, because if one permanently has no taste, then he is not qualified for bhakti only. And kashaya means tendency towards past bad habits, lust, anger, envy, greed, illusion, pride, and various desires born of these things. How many of you in your practice encounter this, which hijack your mind, or sometimes your senses go away from your practice of Krishna consciousness, right? This is also there. Or sometimes rasaswada means whenever there is an opportunity for sense gratification, immediately it becomes difficult to focus on the limbs of devotional service. When there is an opportunity for sense gratification, it becomes difficult. And when that opportunity goes away, then you are able to focus. How many of you have felt this in your practice? Right? So the point is that, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says, yes, these will remain till one reaches Nishta. At the stage of Nishta, the practice will be clearly, once practiced, these five will be conspicuous by their absence. They will never feel sleepy. They will never be distracted. There will never be even occasional lack of interest or taste. They will no longer be killed by their past bad habits. And even in the presence of an opportunity for sense gratification, they will not be affected. So at Nishta, they will be mostly gone. They will be almost gone. These five symptoms will be almost absent. So till then, in Anishtita Bhajana Kriya, due to the presence of anarthas, it will always be there. So as long as there is firefighting going on, then it is still 1 plus 2 plus 3. That is how we should understand the concept of continuity for sadhakas. 3 will become completely absent only at the stage of bhava, where there is absolutely no fire raging. Tada rajastamo bhava. Of course, that is tada rajastamo bhava. But of course, at the stage of at the stage of bhava, even the influence of mode of goodness will be subdued, like that. So that is the way. So today we discussed about how a sadhaka's practice is also anyabilashita shunyam. And today we discuss how a sadhaka's practice is continuous. How should you understand concept of continuity for a practicing sadhaka, that we discussed today. Okay. But basically, the most important aspect that we have discussed is this dynamics between the Shraddha and Swabhava. Okay. The pure Shraddha and the impure Swabhava, which a sadhaka is dealing with. So this explanation, so we have to see, then are there any concrete Shastric evidences for the concept of Shraddha and Swabhava? So we have presented the concept in the first 2 sessions. We have to look for evidence, because as devotees, we should not accept any attractive presentation if it is not properly substantiated by statements from Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. Right? So next week on Saturday and Sunday, same time, we will discuss Shastric evidences from this. But I don't wish to end today's session without taking, because I have spoken for a long time, maybe about half an hour, 45 minutes, maybe 5 to 10 minutes maximum. We will take some discussion points if there is any, and then we will wind up, because I know I am already 5 minutes over time, but I hope you will forgive me. Just we will take 1 or 2 questions quickly and then wind up for the day. Yes, Mother Gail.
Yeah, so it seems that we can call our unsteady practice of devotional service uttama, steady, because the shraddha is steady. The shraddha is not wavering.
Exactly, that is the point. That is the point. So the qualification is defined not based on swabhava. The qualification is based on shraddha. That is how that is what we are understanding.
Okay, and then, if not today, then next time, can you give the translation for the individual words, the Sanskrit words of the
6 stages?
Yeah. I know you did for the first, I think, 3 or so, but I think.
Okay, I'll do that, Mataji, because next week I will do a recap of what we saw. So during my recap, I will give the meanings of those.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Okay, there is one question in the chat box. Is it possible for the progress stages swinging between Ghanatarala to Rasaswada? Rasaswada is not Nishta. I don't know. I'm not able to understand the question. Ghanatarala is very early stages. Of course, Ghanatarala will be there. Shades of Ghanatarala will be there even in the later stages. But that Ghana, the difference between Ghana and Tarala will become less and less and less and less and less. Like that. Yes, Ramangi Radhika Mataji.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. These Anishtita Bhajana Kriya 6 things you mentioned, can all the time they'll be in the sequence, or there can be
They overlap, Mataji. They are overlapping stages. You know, if I ask myself, if I have to be honest, there is for me there is an overlap of 5 and 6. Even though sometimes I experience shades of 3 also, Vyuda Vikalpa. Am I properly externally situated or not? Those doubts also come. But it is mostly 4, 5, and struggle with the senses, inability to raise, and of course, social media is there. The Pujala Pratishtha comes, but gradually over a period of time, 4 should decrease, and after time 5 should decrease, and then 6 should also decrease. Like that, gradually it happens. So there definitely there be overlap of 3 or 4 stages. It's not that one gets over and only then the other starts. It is not like that.
Prabhuji, but this sequence doesn't seem like we are progressing anywhere. Like the last thing. Yeah.
No, so it's not that Tarangarangini comes only at the last stage. Tarangarangini is when you start seeing that this is a serious problem for my progress. That is the stage of Tarangarangini. Tarangarangini is when you start seeing this is an obstacle. That is Tarangarangini. Similarly, similarly in the previous case, he was struggling with the senses. So struggling with the senses does not start at the 4th stage. It has been there all the while. But only at the 4th stage, he realizes that actual problem is this. So he starts seeing this uncontrolled senses and mind as a problem. That is what defines that stage. So, and it's not, Tarangarangini is not there in the previous stages. But at the 6th stage, he starts seeing Tarangarangini as a serious issue. Why is it serious? Because the other stages he has fairly he has addressed it. The sense, the uncontrolled senses, this thing. So now he starts seeing them as problem. Like that.
And Prabhuji, this sequence should happen like this only, or there can be any other?
No, it's not necessary. It's not necessarily Vishwanath Thakur in his Madhura Kadamini does not say, even though he does say stages, but he does not say that everyone go through every stage exactly in the very same order. It depends on every individual conditioning. It depends on that also.
Personally, I felt like in the first stage, we had this so much of enthusiasm all the time, spending in the temple, reading Bhagavatam chapter every day. That was there, so much of enthusiasm, which I could not see in the later stages of my devotional life. But I did not compare with anyone, but I was enjoying that initial stages of my devotional life.
So
yeah,
that may be possible. So I am not telling, though I cannot exactly tell that whether that stage was Utsahamayi only. It may be something different also. It may be genuine enthusiasm, but maybe over a period of time, your taste changed, or maybe there could be cases of some offenses because of which the taste decreased also. So I cannot say that every initial taste one has is Utsahamayi taste only. I can make such a blanket statement. Sometimes devotees do lose taste for devotional activities due to offense, so that may also be possible. So I cannot make a blanket statement like that.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Okay. 2 quick questions. No new hands. I will take only 2 more questions and then end. Okay. Anup Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, the 2 questions were in this. One thing is the mixed devotional service. It is the same in Madhura Kadambini first chapter. And this is one question, Prabhu. And second question is like we also hear.
Wait. I mean, it's a very vague question. I'm not able to understand your question at all. What is
Sorry,
this
Prabhu.
mixed service Madhurya Kadambini
No,
first chapter? I don't. Why? What is the
No, in
connection? I
Madhura,
don't understand.
no, in Madhura Kadambini also in the first chapter we have 3 types of devotional service, like mixed devotional service talking about.
There is no mixed devotional service discussed in Madhurya Kadambini as far as I can recollect.
Okay, well, maybe I was relating to Gita's 17th chapter. Maybe I thought it was there in the first Madhura. Approach and
Yeah,
the second
Gita
thing
17 chapter is current. But
first,
Madhurya
yeah,
Kadambini
first,
first chapter, Madhurya Kadambini, the whole book does not discuss mixed devotional service at all.
okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, because Madhurya Kadambini is a book which elaborates on Adau Shraddha, Tata Sadhu Sangha, Tata Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti. Those 2 verses in Bhakti Sindhu, when Srila Rupa Goswami describes the 9 stages of devotional service, Madhurya Kadambini as a book is dedicated to elaborating on these 9 stages of pure devotional service. So, as far as I understand, Madhurya Kadambini does not talk about mixed devotional service at all.
Okay, sorry for that. And Prabhuji, we also hear in Bhakti Samson like in Nishtha stage where Swabhav and Shraddha, will become one. Then we'll reach a Nishtha stage. But we also, when we hear in Bhava and reflections of Bhava, so in those stages, there is no anartha will be involved after the Nishtha stage, or there will be anarthas will be there till we reach.
No. It's not like that. So, Anartha Nivritti means Prayiki Anartha Nivritti, almost. So, it's not that no anarthas are there at the stage of Da. Actually, some traces of anarthas can be there till the stage of Bhava also. So, but is it called as Anartha Nivritti and Nishtha? So, Anartha Nivritti means the stage of Anartha Nivritti means till that stage, anarthas are there which will obstruct steady practice of bhakti. Then what is Nishtha? The anartha count is so low that the remaining anarthas will not affect his steady practice of bhakti. That is the stage of Nishtha. But anarthas are there. So therefore, anarthati at the stage of Nishtha is prayiki anartha nivritti, not atyantiki anartha. Atyantiki means complete.
Yeah. First, one thing like in every stage when we are going, because we always refer like in Bhakti Rasamrita, like it's always the mercy of the devotees and mercy of the Krishna should always be there when we cross each and every step. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Yeah, one last question, Keshapriya Mataji, if you can quickly ask question.
Thank
Your
you
voice
so
is
much
breaking.
for this wonderful session, Prabhuji. It was like my subtle body. And Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Am I audible?
Yes. Go. Now you are audible.
Am I audible,
please go
Prabhuji?
ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, thank you so much for this wonderful session, Prabhuji. It is like keeping a mirror in front of my subtle body. And it's very like so many devotees accepting frankly. So we need such courses often, Prabhuji, so that I could see that it's not only me who is suffering with this and so many, all the devotees. And you said it will be there till the stage of Bhava. So almost all the devotees must be undergoing this in any other, maybe the stages may vary as you said, Prabhuji, but all of us should go through all these things. So really very much we are grateful to you for such course, Prabhuji. And only one question, Prabhuji, regarding the Utsahamai. So when we studied NOA, Prabhuji, what's my understanding? It's only this enthusiasm that keeps us positive, like keep growing in Bhakti, Prabhuji. Like that is like a fuel for all the devotees. So even what you explained initially, we may behave something different with our enthusiasm, but only because of the enthusiasm we are progressing, no, Prabhuji. Like in the fear of that Utsahamai, we may try to control our enthusiasm also.
It's not fear of Utsahamai. A person, you don't speak this to a person at the of Utsahamai. He does not understand only. So that is actually false confidence, and false confidence is coming from his false ego. So that kind of, so it is ill-informed confidence. Because if he was well-informed, then Not that he will lose his confidence, then he will have a clearer understanding of what he is. So it is like the confidence is important. I gave the example of marathon runner. So it's not that those who just sprinted from the beginning, it's not that, but that kind of confidence is false confidence. That is misplaced confidence. That kind of confidence is not good. So confidence means confidence with proper knowledge. That is important.
So enthusiasm needed, no, Prabhuji. That is the
We are not against confidence, Mataji. We are not against confidence. But confidence is, if I tell the person, yes, run very fast. You are very enthusiastic, run very fast. So then in half a kilometer, his marathon will get over. So to think that, so that kind of confidence is proper confidence. That's what I'm telling. We are not against confidence, but we are against false confidence like that.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so very much I apologize for going over time. So we will continue this discussion next Saturday and Sunday also, because right now we have just laid the foundation, but we have to see whatever we have discussed is according to the scriptures or not. This is the most important thing, right? Because it should be supported by Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. Otherwise, however attractive some concepts may be, we cannot accept if it is not properly substantiated by Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. So we will see tomorrow, not tomorrow, but next next Saturday and Sunday, we will discuss some Shastric proofs for this. And these Shastric proofs and explanations by the Acharyas will help us actually understand this concept or this dynamics between our Shraddha and Swabha much more clearly. So thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam.
See you all next Saturday and Sunday. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.